Welcome to Unbound American Stories, the channel where we uncover the lives of the extraordinary figures who shaped our nation, often from the shadows. These are the voices that history textbooks sometimes overlook, the rebels, thinkers, and visionaries who dared to challenge the status quo and change the course of America. Today's story is one of the most powerful of them all, the life of Thomas Paine, a man whose words ignited revolutions and whose ideas still echo in the fight for justice and liberty. The information in the video is based on AI-generated research and is designed to spark your curiosity. Think of it as the beginning of a conversation, not the final word. If you're conducting serious research or preparing work for publication, we encourage you to dig deeper into peer-reviewed academic and historical sources to confirm the facts. On to Thomas Paine. Thomas Paine, the flame that never dies. The outsider who changed history. Thomas Paine was not born into greatness. He wasn't a wealthy landowner, a general, or a politician. He was the son of a corset maker from Thetford, England, a man with little formal education but an unshakable belief in the power of ideas. Yet, with nothing more than a pen and a relentless spirit, he would ignite a revolution that would change the world forever. His story is one of courage, defiance, and the unyielding conviction that ordinary people could and should shape their own destiny. But it is also a story of betrayal, obscurity, and a legacy that outlived the man himself. This is the tale of how one man's words became the spark that lit the fire of liberty, and how even the greatest revolutionaries can be forgotten. A life of struggle and rebellion. Paine's early life was marked by hardship. Born in 1737 in Thetford, a small market town in England, he left school at 13 to apprentice under his father. The work suffocated him. He tried his hand at various trades, sailor, teacher, tax collector, none of them sticking. By the time he was 37, he was broke, twice married, both marriages ended tragically, and on the verge of giving up. But fate had other plans. In 1774, he met Benjamin Franklin in London, who saw something in the fiery-tempered Englishman. Franklin gave him a letter of introduction and urged him to seek his fortune in America. With little to lose, Paine boarded a ship to Philadelphia and stepped into history. The Immigrant's Gambit, A New World, 1774 to 1775. America in 1774 was a powder keg. The colonies chafed under British rule, but few dared to speak of independence. Most still saw themselves as British subjects, loyal to the crown. The idea of breaking away was radical, even dangerous. Paine, however, saw things differently. He had no loyalty to kings or empires, only to the idea that people should govern themselves. In the fall of 1775, with the encouragement of Franklin and Dr. Benjamin Rush, a physician and activist, Paine began writing a pamphlet that would shatter the status quo. He called it Common Sense. The pamphlet that shook the world, January 1776. Unlike the dense political tracts of the time, Common Sense was written for the people. Paine didn't use fancy legal jargon or flowery prose. He wrote like a man speaking to his neighbors, direct, passionate, and impossible to ignore. Society in every state is a blessing, he wrote, but government, even in its best state, is but a necessary evil. He tore apart the idea of monarchy, calling it absurd. How ridiculous is it for a continent to be ruled by an island? He asked. Is it the nature of men to be slaves? He argued that America was a land of immigrants, a melting pot of cultures, and it was time to forge a new nation, one where the people, not a distant king, held the power. The cause of America is in a great measure the cause of all mankind, he declared. We have it in our power to begin the world over again. Common Sense was published on January 10, 1776. It was an instant sensation. Within weeks, it sold 100,000 copies, a staggering number in a nation of just 2.5 million. It was read aloud in taverns, debated in coffee houses, and passed from hand to hand in the streets. George Washington, then commanding the Continental Army, ordered that it be read to his troops. "I find common sense is working a powerful change in the minds of many men," Washington wrote to a friend. Before common sense, independence was a radical idea. After common sense, it was inevitable. The Forgotten Abolitionist, Paine's fight against slavery. Paine didn't just challenge monarchy, he also challenged slavery, one of the great moral failures of the new nation. In 1775, he helped draft the Pennsylvania Abolition Society's petition, the first formal call for the abolition of slavery in America. His essay, African Slavery in America, was one of the earliest anti-slavery works in the colonies. "The slave," he wrote, "who is the proper owner of his freedom, has a right to reclaim it however often sold." Yet even as he fought for liberty, Paine knew that the fight was far from over. The Constitution, drafted in 1787, would compromise on slavery, and Paine was one of the few who publicly condemned it. He saw it as a betrayal of the Revolution's ideals, a flaw that would haunt the nation for generations. The Crisis, Words That Saved a Revolution, Winter 1776. Paine didn't just write about revolution, he lived it. He joined the Continental Army as a volunteer, serving as an aide to General Nathanael Greene. He didn't carry a musket, he carried a pen, writing essays to boost morale and rally support for the cause. His American Crisis papers, beginning with the immortal line, "These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands by it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman." The effect was electric. Washington ordered that the crisis be read aloud to his troops. Just days later, on Christmas night 1776, Washington led his army across the icy Delaware River and launched a surprise attack on the Hessian mercenaries at Trenton. The victory was a turning point in the war, and Paine's words had played no small part in it. Paine continued to write the American Crisis throughout the war, publishing 16 pamphlets in total. Each one was a masterclass in persuasive writing, blending logic, emotion, and moral clarity. He wrote about the sacrifices of the soldiers, the perfidy of the British, and the justice of the American cause. A Radical's Critique, Paine versus the Constitution, 1787. The colonies had won their independence, but they still had to build a nation. As the war drew to a close, Paine reflected on the journey that had brought him to this point. He had arrived in America as a penniless immigrant, a man with little more than a letter of introduction and a dream. Now, he was one of the most influential figures in the new nation. But Paine was not satisfied. When the U.S. Constitution was drafted in 1787, he read it with a critical eye. He saw its flaws, the compromise on slavery, the limited suffrage, the unchecked power of the federal government, and he spoke out. "A constitution is not the act of a government," he wrote, "but of a people constituting a government." He believed that true democracy required more than just independence. It required justice, and he feared that the new nation was already betraying its own ideals. The First Modern Welfare State, Paine's Economic Vision, 1797. Paine's radicalism didn't stop at politics. In 1797, he published Agrarian Justice, a pamphlet that proposed a revolutionary economic system, one that would guarantee economic security for all citizens. He argued that landowners owed a debt to society and proposed a land value tax to fund social welfare, a basic income for all citizens, a pension system for the elderly. "The earth in its natural state is the common property of the human race," he wrote. "Every proprietor owes to the community a ground rent for the land he holds." These ideas were centuries ahead of their time. They would later influence socialist thinkers, progressive reformers, and even modern universal basic income proposals. The Rights of Man, a Revolutionary in Europe, 1789-1793. In 1787, Paine returned to Europe, where he found new battles to fight. In England, he wrote The Rights of Man, a blistering defense of the French Revolution and a call for democracy and human rights. Man has no property in man, he declared. The world is my country, all mankind are my brethren, and to do good is my religion. The British government, terrified of his influence, charged him with treason. Paine fled to France, where he was hailed as a hero, until the revolution took a dark turn. During the Reign of Terror, Paine, ever the idealist, spoke out against the execution of King Louis XVI. For his defiance, he was imprisoned and nearly guillotined. Only the fall of Robespierre saved him. In prison, he began writing The Age of Reason, a critique of organized religion that would make him even more enemies. To his critics, he was an atheist, a heretic. To his supporters, he was a champion of free thought. The Age of Reason, a challenge to faith, 1794-1802. Even in his darkest hours, Paine refused to be silenced. In The Age of Reason, he argued that religion should be subject to reason, not dogma. I believe in one God and no more, he wrote. I do not believe in the creed professed by the Jewish Church, by the Roman Church, by the Greek Church, by the Turkish Church, by the Protestant Church, nor by any church that I know of. My own mind is my own church. The backlash was immediate. In America, where he had once been a hero, he was now vilified as an infidel. Even former allies, like George Washington, distanced themselves from him. A revolutionary scorned. Paine's final years in America, 1802-1809. By the time Paine returned to America in 1802, he was a shadow of his former self. The years in prison had broken his health, and his radical ideas had made him many enemies. He spent his final years in a small apartment in New York, poor, isolated, and forgotten. The Federalist newspapers, which had spent years attacking him, barely mentioned his passing. When he died in 1809, only 6 people attended his funeral. Paine had left specific instructions for his burial. He wanted to be laid to rest in a Quaker cemetery in accordance with his father's faith. But the Quakers refused. They saw him as a heretic. His body was instead buried on a small farm in New Rochelle, New York, in an unmarked grave. The Lost Bones of a Revolutionary, 1819 present, Paine's story did not end with his death. In 1819, William Cobbett, the same man who had spent years attacking Paine, had a change of heart. Cobbett, now a radical reformer himself, decided to exhume Paine's body and bring it back to England. But the plan went horribly wrong. Cobbett's ship was delayed, and Paine's remains were lost in transit. To this day, no one knows what happened to his bones. It was a tragic end for a man who had given everything for liberty. Yet, in a strange way, it was also fitting. Paine had always been an outsider, a man who challenged power, but was ultimately abandoned by the institutions he helped create. The flame that never dies. Why Paine matters. Today. Thomas Paine's ideas didn't die with him. His belief in democracy, liberty, and human rights became the foundation of modern political thought. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted by the United Nations in 1948, echoes many of the principles he championed. In the 21st century, Paine's words have taken on new relevance. In an era of political polarization, rising inequality, and global unrest, his call for justice and liberty resonates more than ever. From the Arab Spring to the Black Lives Matter movement, Paine's ideas continue to inspire those who fight for a better world. His belief in the power of ordinary people to challenge power is the foundation of modern protest movements. So why does Paine matter today? Because he proved that one person, armed with nothing more than a pen and a belief in justice, can change the world. Because he showed that the fight for freedom is never truly over. And because, in a time when it's easy to feel powerless, his life is a reminder that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. The flame he lit still burns, and it's up to us to keep it alive. Epilogue. What would Paine say today? If Paine were alive today, what would he think of the world? Would he see progress, or would he see the same old battles being fought in new ways? Would he be inspired by the movements for justice and equality, or would he be dismayed by the persistence of oppression and inequality? One thing is certain: Paine would not be silent. He would be in the streets, pen in hand, writing pamphlets and rallying the people. He would be challenging the powerful, speaking truth to those who would rather not hear it. He would be reminding us that the fight for liberty is never truly over, that the flame of revolution must be kept alive. So let us take up that flame. Let us be inspired by Paine's courage, his conviction, and his unwavering belief in the power of the people. Let us carry his words forward, not as relics of the past, but as tools for the future. For the flame that Paine lit has never died, and it is up to us to keep it burning. If you enjoyed this episode, please like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next story. Who should we uncover next? Did we miss an important fact? Did we get something wrong? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for listening, and until next time, keep the flame of curiosity alive.